today's CaFÉ webinar. In this webinar, I'll be sharing with you a full tutorial of how to set up a brand new call for entry in CaFÉ. The key items that we will cover include how to request a new call for entry, how to enter the event information, building the application, setting up entry fees, and how to publish the call for entry. Today, we'll start by talking about how to request a new call for entry. The first step you have to do is fill out the new call request form, also known as the client information form for contest. This is what I'm showing here. I'm showing the third page of this form. This form can also be found in our Help Center. So if you click the Help tab when you're logged into CaFÉ, you'll get to this page, which is our Help Center. And then if you go to the call setup page, you'll see the new call request form here at the top right here, or down below, there's also a little button that will take you to the form. So whenever you're ready to set up a new call, the first step is just coming here and filling out this form, which is this one here. You are all probably familiar with this form since you had to fill it out even to start using CaFÉ. But one thing I'll mention is that you'll want to make sure your call details, such as your dates, media requirements, and jury type, are filled out properly. When we add your call to CaFÉ, we'll be matching this data exactly as it's listed on the form, and some of that info you won't be able to change or update yourself. Therefore, you'll want to make sure that it's accurate from the beginning. One of my tips, too, is that if you want your call info transferred from a previous call you already have in CaFÉ, maybe you have an annual call or maybe a call with a very similar setup, you can indicate on this form here if you'd like the team to copy over the existing details from a previous call. So you can go ahead and just click yes, and then give us the name of the call that is already set up in CaFÉ. One thing you should know on this form here is that even if you do copy over the details from a previous call, we will overwrite some of the data with this information that you enter. So your new deadline dates, your jury type, entry fee, and your media requirements will all be updated on the new call as you indicate it here on the form. So even if we do copy the details from a previous call, just be sure that all of the info you enter in on the call form here is still accurate. And then once we receive this form from you, we'll create the template and add it to CaFÉ. Once you're notified that it's ready via email, you can then log in and begin editing the call for entry and set it up for accepting applications. So to log in, we'll go to our login page for administrators. The URL is admin.callforentry.org. Keep in mind, this is separate from the page that artists log in at artist.callforentry.org. Jurors also log into this page here too. You should already be set up with a CaFÉ administrator account. So all you have to do is put in your username and password and go to login. Once you're logged into the administrator account, you'll see the menu bar on the left-hand side. You can collapse this menu anytime by clicking these three lines at the top to open and close. This menu has 5 tabs: events, jury, reports, ticket, and help center. To set up the call, though, for what we're going to be talking about today, we'll start in the events tab. Under the events tab, we'll make sure that we're on this management page. You'll see that we are already here. Once you click this tab, you just need to select the name of the call that you are setting up from the drop-down menu. So as soon as we've added the call template to CaFÉ, it should be added to this list here. If you're a brand new client with us, you will only see the one. So go ahead and just choose the call that you will set up. And then once you select it, you'll see this dashboard where the applications are going to be kept when they start coming in. While we won't go over this whole page here, I'll just let you know, just so you're aware that, applications when they come in will start to be entered into the receive status. So you'll be able to click on the receive status. This is a brand new call, so we don't have any applications, but as soon as you click on it, you'll then see the list of applications and be able to view them. To set up the call itself, we're going to be working in the call editor. So I'm going to click this green call editor button. And this will take you to the call editor page. And you'll see we have 3 tabs here at the top right. We have event information, which is where you'll enter your call details that artists can review before applying to your call. The application editor is where you'll build the application that the artist will fill out. and the product editor, which is where you'll set up the entry fee and any additional fees that artists will check out with to submit their application. We'll first start in the event information tab here. You'll see there are two sections at the top of this page, and actually on every page, the call overview section and the call status section. These simply list out the basic information for your call. This info will be covered when we go over the rest of the page, but there are two things I'll draw your attention to here. First, in the call overview section, we have the call URL. So this URL is unique to your call that displays your call details on the front end of CaFÉ. So if I click this here, it'll take us to the front of CaFÉ where anyone viewing the call can see it, and it will list out their call information that we are going to be setting up. This URL you can use to do whatever you need to promote the call. You can copy and paste it and use it in your promotions. You can send it to your networks. When this URL is clicked and used, anyone can go to this page here and just view that information. As long as the call is published, this will be live, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then when the call is set to accept applications, the Apply Now button will be available. Again, I'll kind of go over that a little bit later too. Secondly, in the status section, we have the call status right here. When you're first editing your new call, this will actually be listed as not published. This means you're still editing it and it's not gone live on the call listing page. But once you've completed the process that we're doing today and setting up your call, once you're ready to publish it, you will submit a publish request to our team so we can quickly review your call and publish it for you. To do that, you just have to submit a ticket from the ticket tab here on the side. You'll choose publish request from the list of ticket options, and that with your message will just let us know that you're ready to publish your call. Once we do that, we'll set the call status here to published. At that point too is when the call URL becomes available. So when you first are editing the call, you won't see this call URL listed. As soon as we change the status to published, the URL becomes available. If we are still awaiting payment for the call, we'll update your call status to pending. And this just means that we're waiting for payment before your call can go live. Once we do receive payment, we will go in here and update it and change it to either not published or published, depending on whether or not you've submitted your publish request yet. All right, so those are just a couple little things about these sections at the top. Now I'll go into how to build out the call itself with the information. We'll start here on the left-hand side with the organization details section. At the top, you can upload a logo for your organization or maybe for your event itself. You'll just click a button that says choose file and add a JPEG file that's no larger than 300 pixels on the longest edge and no larger than 2 megabytes. This will display, as we saw on the front end, on the call detail page. It'll also be used in any of our weekly notifications to artists for upcoming deadlines. Your call logo will be transferred to those emails. Next, you'll add your organization name, your website. You'll enter an email and phone number. These are the information that artists can use to contact you if they have any questions about the call or the exhibition or the public art project itself. Any questions about using CaFÉ can actually come to us, and we have our artist support desk available. But this is where you'll enter in information if they need to contact you specifically. The email is required, but the phone number is not required to enter. Then you'll enter your city and your state, so potential applicants know where you're located. You'll also choose from the drop-down menu here the call type and the eligibility. These, in addition to your call name, your organization name, and your city, are all used as search terms on our call listings page when artists are browsing our list of calls. So you'll just want to make sure these are accurate. For the eligibility, when you can choose how open your call is, this doesn't actually verify for artists when they apply whether or not they're eligible. But as long as you have, your city or your state updated correctly in the eligibility, artists can use that to know whether or not they're eligible to apply. And then below that, we have the call listing details. This is where you'll put in this information specific to your call. You'll enter the title of your call in the call name field. You can edit this call name to your liking, even if it was entered differently on the original call request form. One of my tips here is that since the words that will be entered here are going to be used as key search terms when artists are searching for calls on our site, it definitely helps if you are specific in your call name. For example, instead of just writing 2021 exhibition, you could write, Denver Art Gallery 2021 exhibition landscapes. So, you have a little bit more specificity in your call name. Next, we have the short description. This box allows you to type in or paste a description of your call that will then appear on the call listings page to all artists. This description should just be a truncated summary of your call and should be limited to no more than 1,000 characters. It's just a little brief statement to entice artists to view more information if they're browsing all of the calls at once. Below that is the long description box. This is where you enter the full version of your call information and/or your prospectus. This section can and should include information about your call to give artists a good idea about what to expect when applying to the call, and then maybe what to expect for the event or the project itself. Feel free to type this in or copy and paste from another document. The information here will display on the call detail page. Again, this is the call detail page. It will display right here. Below that, we have the application requirements section. This is where you'll enter information about what the artist needs to prepare ahead of time and what they will be submitting on the actual application. You can include info about what type of artwork is accepted, how many work samples you're collecting, maybe any other materials like resumes, artist statements, references. You'll want to include this information so they know what they'll have to submit. Again, information here will just display below the long description on the call detail page. Next is the eligibility section. This is where you'll outline who is eligible to apply to your call. This can be based on location, like we talked about. For example, U.S. artists only. You might have information based on age restrictions or perhaps artistic disciplines. Keep in mind that CaFÉ, like I said before, cannot verify or prevent ineligible artists from applying. Therefore, it's important to clearly outline here who exactly is eligible to apply to your call. This info will also display on the call detail page below the other sections. And then below that, we have the rules and terms to apply. This is where you'll outline the terms and conditions to apply to the call. Perhaps you also have some legal or liability information you want to put here as the organization hosting the event. This info will appear to artists as the legal agreement. So if I go here and click View Legal Agreement, this is the information that appears here. It will also display when artists go to apply to your call. They then have to agree to these terms and conditions in order to apply to the call. Below that, we have the site plan option. So here, if you want, you can put a file, it could be a PDF or a JPEG file. This is used typically for public art calls who have a specific site plan for their location of the public art project. Perhaps you could use it for the site plan of your exhibition or gallery. So it's an optional field here. When you do have a file here, artists will see on the front end the option to view the site plan, and they can click that and view the file that you've uploaded. And then finally, there's the budget field. This is also optional. It's used primarily for public art calls with specific public art project budgets. You can enter the project budget here and it will display with the rest of the call details. If you don't have it, you can just leave it blank. Scrolling back to the top here, the next section we have is the important dates section. This is where you will set up the main dates for your call when they will be open and closed. First, we have the accept applications date. This is the date your call will begin accepting applications. One thing that's important to note here is that if you request your call be published prior to this date, the call will not be open and won't accept applications until this date here. For example, if we publish the call for you actually on a Friday, and you set this date to perhaps Sunday, while the call information when we publish it will be visible via the unique URL, this won't actually open it up for applications until the date here. Once the date approaches though, once Sunday comes, it will open up automatically. So this is a good way to schedule your call to be live on the date you choose in advance. Next, we have the rolling deadline option. This isn't typically used, but if you do have your call set up as a rolling deadline or on a rolling basis, you would then turn this on. If you're not doing a rolling deadline and you instead have a strict application deadline where artists have to submit by, this you would leave rolling deadline disabled and the application date would be listed here. So speaking of the application date, this should be the date that the call will close and stop accepting applications. Specifically, it will close at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time on the date that you choose. And then we also here have the jurying dates. These allow you to indicate the dates you anticipate your jury to start and end so artists are aware of your overall timeline. This date won't actually impact your jury's access to the scorecard or your ability to start the jurying, outside of these dates, but it gives the artist a good idea of when you plan on conducting your jury. Below that, we have the additional settings. This has various settings that you can use. Most of them are optional. First, we have the exhibition activity date. So you could leave it off, but if you want to turn it on, you can set the specific start and end dates for your exhibition or event. If you don't have anything like that, maybe it's a public art project, you might leave that disabled. The confirm invite and purchase due date setting. This is a feature that if turned on, you can collect a post-jury participation, handling, or some other fee for your invited artists. If you choose this feature, we suggest that you contact us as there's a couple other settings that need to be set up properly. And if you're not using it, just be sure that this is turned to off. Next, we have the invitational private listing setting. So you'll toggle this on to list your call privately and then create this passcode or any passcode that artists have to use to access your call. If you want your call to be open to the public so that anyone can find you and anyone can apply, be sure that you leave this off. Finally, the prevent artists from archiving entries setting here. This ensures that the artwork artists submit to your call cannot be modified or archived until you're done considering them. Be sure this is toggled on while your call is open. When your jury process ends and you set your jury status to complete, this will actually update automatically to off so that once you're done with your jury, artists are then able to archive their entries. But you'll just want to be sure that this is set to on while your call is still open and accepting applications. So then the last section here on the event information tab is the jury type. This will simply tell you which jury type your call is set up as. It will be either set up as scoring by art like we have here. This means each upload is separated and scored independently as individual entries. We also have a scoring by application type. This means that images that artists submit are grouped together and scored as a whole. So this jury type will be set to the one that you list on your call request form. So if this needs to be changed, maybe it's set up incorrectly, be sure to just check it if it's correct. If it's not correct, or if you do need to change it, let us know before you make your call live. Just contact us and we can switch your jury type for you. It does have some ramifications down the line if you're using the wrong jury type. So be sure it's set up correctly from the beginning. And if you do have scoring by application chosen here, you will see an extra setting. This will be the number of applications allowed per artist setting. So you don't see it here because we're using a different jury type, but if you're using scoring by application, you can select how many applications each artist are able to upload. And then before we move on, I'll just let you know, as you've been seeing here, each little section has its own Save Section button. So once you are going through all of this and entering your information, just click Save Section once you're done with the section so you can save your work along the way. If you click Save Section, it will only save those changes to the current section you're working on and not save the changes to another section, and it will instead revert those changes. So if you want to make changes to all sections at once, instead use the Save Call button, which is at the top. We also have it at the bottom. You can use this to save changes across the entire page here. You'll also see at the top and the bottom, we have this preview call button. So I'll go ahead and click that. You'll see it takes you to the preview of the call detail page, which is the exact same page we were looking at before with the call URL. This will just show you before you take your call published, it will show you what it looks like so you know that you've set it up the way you want it. So this concludes everything you need to know about the event information tab and how to upload your info before you publish your call. The next thing you'll need to do to set up your call is go to the Application Editor tab. This is where you build out the application that artists will fill out and enter their work before they submit it. So first here, you'll see on the left-hand side, we have the work sample requirements. This is where it will be listed how many images, video, and or audio files your call is accepting from each artist. We'll enter your image requirements as you've put them on the call request form. So while you don't have ability to edit this section here, if you do need to make any changes, be sure it looks the same as what you put on the call request form and that it's exactly set up the way you want it. If you do need to make those changes, though, feel free to contact us and we will update them for you. The next section here is the artist statement options section. So this is essentially a pre-built application question that when activated, it allows you to request artists to submit a personal statement about themselves and their works. To activate, you'll just set this to on. Once on, you'll see additional options here, like you can set a maximum character length. You can also enter in additional instructions for artists in this text box. You don't have to, though. I'll show you later on what it looks like. It will simply just prompt them to upload an artist statement or type it in. You can provide these additional instructions if you need. To save those changes, be sure to click the Save Section button so that the artist statement stays on. Below that, we have the submission categories. Categories enable you to organize your entries as all applications will be labeled with their chosen category, and jurors will be able to review applications by category. Activate the categories by toggling this on. Once set to on, you'll see a space appear below where you can enter 2 or more categories. So you'll just enter the name of the category. Today we'll do maybe 2D art. Click Add New. We'll get a space for a new one. We'll add 3D art. Click Add New. And then you can add as many categories as you need. If you need to update them or edit, just click the pencil icon. This will allow you to edit the name of the category and just save it. You can also click the trash icon to remove the categories. If you're not using categories or you really only have one category, since that's its own, there's no such thing as one category since it's the call itself, just make sure that this is toggled to off if you're not using them. And then the last thing, the more of the main section of the application editor is the custom form questions section. This is where you'll create the questions that artists will need to answer in order to apply to your call. These are things like the application requirements you listed on the previous page, like the resumes, references, bios, letters of interest, anything you need to collect from the artist. Before I show you how to build a question, keep in mind that CaFÉ already collects artist information such as their name, contact info, city and state, their website address if they have one. CaFÉ also collects the artwork information for each image or work sample uploaded, such as the artist title, medium, dimensions, year created, the price, and the description. Therefore, you do not need to build out questions for this info as it's already collected for you. To build a question, start by clicking Build New Question. The question editor module will then appear. You will first select the type of the question you'd like to build. CaFÉ has several different question types. Text box questions allow the applicant to type their answer into a text box. Checkbox questions have multiple answer options, and artists may select as many answers that apply to them. Radio button questions also have multiple answer options, but artists may only select one of those answers. So this is good for like a yes/no question. Drop-down list questions have multiple answer options, just as before, but the artist can only choose one of them as well, and it just appears differently as a drop-down, kind of what we're looking at here. Informational only questions aren't actually questions, but they just allow you to put information on the application itself. So artists won't be entering an answer, but you can use this to reiterate your media requirements, eligibility criteria, anything like that directly on the application so that artists see it as they're filling it out. And then lastly, the file upload questions allow artists to upload a file as their answer. Each file upload question allows for one file upload in one of the accepted file formats. This is good for materials such as resumes, proposal documents, etc. So then once you select the type of question you need, the corresponding fields will appear. So today I'll choose the radio button as their example. The first thing you'll do is enter an internal title. This is not the question itself, but it's just a label so that you can reference the question later on. So for example, we'll do, for sale. You can toggle the required setting to on to make sure that it's required that all artists fill out this question. And then in the custom question text box here, this is where you actually write out the question. Is your artwork for sale? And then if you're using a checkbox, radio button, or drop-down list, you'll have this space here where you'll build out the answer options. So let's click add option. I'm going to have I'll have 3 answer options here. I'll click for as many as I need. And then I'll just make sure I enter my answer options. We'll do yes, no, and then maybe not sure or something like that. If you need to change the order, you can either update the text or click these order numbers to rearrange the order of the answer options on the page. And you can also choose to have it so that it's pre-selected when the artist sees it. If you don't need it, you can just leave them all off. And then, of course, click the trash icon to remove any of the answer options. Below that, you'll see we have the option to include additional help information. If I toggle this on, you'll see that it appears with another text box. This is where you can enter additional information that will appear as a help bubble on the application and can be clicked to view. So if you're using the file upload question type, where you'll have folks upload their resume or anything like that, this will actually be default to toggle on so that it provides the information and it will be preloaded for you with the size requirements and file format requirements that CaFÉ specifies. If you don't have any information to appear as a pop-up window little thing for this question, you can just leave it off. When you're ready, go ahead and click Create Question, and it will be added to the list of custom questions here. You'll then repeat that process for as many questions as you need. If you need to go back and edit, just click the pencil icon. If you want to delete the question, click the trash icon. And then once you have multiple questions built out, if you need to reorder the questions as they will appear on the application, you can click on this little arrow here. Since I only have one question, it's not really going to work, but you'll just be able to click and drag between the different questions to update the order. So you'll click and drag to the order that you want the questions to be in, and then just be sure you click the Update Question Order button. That will actually save the changes to the order that you made. To make sure you've set it all up the way that you want it, be sure to click Preview Call. This will take you to the preview of the application as it will appear to the artist. You'll see here we have our artist statement activated. Like I said before, it'll just say, please provide a brief statement. And artists typically know what that means for an artist statement unless you provided additional instructions. You'll also see here that we have the question that we just built out. So you have, is your artwork for sale? It's a radio button, which means they can click their answer option and it only allows them to choose one of them. So just make sure you preview your call and make sure you have the correct question types for each question you're asking, that it's in the correct order you want it to be. And yeah, you can create an unlimited number of questions. You can also create 0 questions. So if you don't have anything, you're just collecting the work samples, which happens at the second section of this application. If you're just collecting work samples, that's fine. It will simply list here that you have no questions and the artist can continue by just attaching their portfolio images. If you need to go back, once you've previewed, you could just go back and update anything that you need on the question to make sure it's customized to your liking. The last tab that you need to review and set up is the product editor. So I'll go ahead and click that. This is the page where you will set up any entry fees or any additional fees you have and choose your payment options. If you entered it on the new call request form, we will set up your base entry fee for you, as well as any additional media fees. However, you will need to come here to verify that the information is correct and enter any additional fees you want to have. So first, you'll come here and you'll verify or select the price of the entry fee that is set up. In the cost column, enter the value beginning with a 0. If you do not charge an entry fee, if your applications are free for artists to submit, you will still need to make sure this is set to $0. A $0 entry fee needs to be set up so that artists will, quote unquote, check out in order to submit and send their application. So even if you don't charge an entry fee, it still needs to be essentially set up as one, even though it's $0. Under the item column, you'll just enter a description of the fee. This is displayed on the checkout page so artist knows exactly what they're paying for. Here I just have, the call name briefly and entry fee so they know it's the entry fee. And then under fee type, you'll want to make sure it says entry fee. Under accepted payment options, you can select the default is credit card and PayPal, but if you want to just accept checks, which I know is rare, you can. Or you can select all so that they have the option to pay by credit card and PayPal or by check. Under items sold/available, it will show you how many of the product you've sold. So far we have 0. It will also allow you to change the number of available products. So let's say you don't want an unlimited number of submissions. You want to cap the number of submissions that you want to collect. So if I only want it to be 200, I'll set this to 200. Once it reaches 200 submissions, the product will be sold out and no one else will be able to apply. If you want to make sure it's unlimited, be sure you leave that as, all 9s. If you need to save any changes to this line here, you'll just click save. And then the trash icon to remove the product. But if the product is already sold, if there's at least one here, you won't be able to delete it. If you have 2 entry fees, maybe you have a member price and a non-member price, you can repeat this process to set up an additional entry fee. So you can come here and say, maybe my, member entry fee is less than, so I'll go in here and add that. I'll make sure it's also set to entry fee here. And then, I'll make sure that's correct and click add, and it will get added to my list of products. Keep in mind, though, that the entry fees are based on a honor system. So when artists reach the checkout page, if there are 2 entry fees listed here, that means that they can choose which one applies to them. If you're trusting in your artist that they'll choose the right one, feel free to set up 2 entry fees to make it easy. The other option, which I'll show you how to do, is to set up a coupon code so that, it's only 1 entry fee, but then members can have a coupon code to discount it. If you are charging an additional media fee, perhaps you have $10 for one image and then $5 for each additional image above that minimum, you'll add a product line here. That's the media fee. So let me say I'll add $5 for each additional media. I'll add additional media fee just so the artist knows what the fee actually is for. And this is really important. I'll make sure I choose media fee. So this media fee type here will just tell the system to count how many images above the minimum they have entered and then charge this amount per additional image. I'll click add product to add it to my list. I can go here too and click preview fees so that I can see kind of at a glance how many images I'm submitting or I'm collecting and the additional media fee that will be applied to each additional work sample above the minimum, up to the maximum. We also have a couple other products you can set up. So under fee type, we have an other fee option. This is actually only used if you're collecting that post-jury participation or handling or selection fee. You would only use the other fee type for this purpose, in which case, again, reach out to us and we'll make sure it's set up correctly. The admin fee is a fee type you can use to sell additional products. Maybe you can sell your yearly memberships here or your exhibition catalogs. This can be used for anything of your choosing. It's an optional product that when artists check out, they can choose to purchase that additional product. And then if you're accepting check payments, just be sure you enter your mailing address for where the artist can accept checks. This will appear when they choose the check payment option so that they can send them to you. And then finally, we have the coupon section. This will list if and which coupons you have created for your call. To create a coupon, we'll click Create Coupon, and you'll be taken to the coupon manager. You'll then, similar to the product editor, use one line for each coupon that you are setting up. So you can kind of set one up here. Maybe I'm going to do a member discount as a coupon instead. So I'll just do that. I'll enter the amount. Maybe it's half off, and I can choose whether or not it's percentage or dollars. I'll put in the actual code that the artist will enter on the checkout page here. And then I'll just set a start date and an expiration date. Be sure that the expiration date is at least set to your deadline date, maybe even past the deadline date if you anticipate extending your deadline so that the coupon doesn't expire before the call closes. And then just be sure to choose enabled as my status. And then I'll choose which entry product I am discounting. So I'm only discounting my regular entry fee. So I'm just going to click that. And I'll go ahead and click add. This will add it here. And if I need to make any changes, I can just go in and make those changes and click save. Once the coupon or coupons you've added are added, you can go to product editor at the button here. This will take you all the way back to that product editor page, and you can view the coupons listed here. And if you need to make any changes, just click the pencil icon. That's how you set up your entry fees and any other fees you have. Be sure that this is all set up correctly before you take your call live. Once you've filled out all of these tabs at the top, you've done your event information, application editor, and product editor setups, you will be ready to take your call live. And like I mentioned before, you'll go to the ticket tab here on the left. This will take you to the message form. You'll just make sure you select under issue, you'll select publish request. You'll enter the rest of your information, let us know that you're ready to publish your call, and we'll get an email and then set your call to published. We will definitely answer your publish request within 24 hours, 24 business hours. We are available Monday through Friday. So one of my big tips is just to give yourself enough time and then give us time to publish it. If you need your call to go live on the weekend, send us a request at least on Thursday. We'll likely get to all of them on Friday, but give us enough time and we'll publish your call for you. And then, like I said before, I'll go back to the call editor. Once we publish your call, it will go live and accept applications on this date here, the accept applications date. And then if you have any other questions as you're setting up your call, you can use that ticket tab to send us a message. If you have any questions, you can also email us at cafehelp@westaff.org. And we have all the help guide materials, including what we talked about today, under the Help Center tab. This concludes our webinar on how to set up your call for entry as an administrator. I have a question in the chat. If I choose to have the past call copied, do I have the option to change any written text in the past copy? Absolutely, 100% yes. When we copy over your call from a previous template, you'll be able to edit any and everything. It's really handy if you don't want to retype out some of your prospectus information, or maybe you build out a lot of application questions for each call that you have, and you don't want to have to go back and rebuild those. Those will all be copied, but you can go in here and edit the info. You can add a question, you can remove questions, you can edit all of this written copy that you have here. Those can all be updated. And we'll encourage you that you do update it, because some things change and maybe you have some different dates. So if they're set to, if you have any timeline information here, you'll want to make sure it's updated to the correct year. So just be sure that you go through it, but you can definitely edit anything you need to. Thanks so much for joining us, and be sure to join our next webinar next month.